Welcome to another Connect event. I'm Dr. Dave Hester. Appreciate everybody coming in. Just going to give a few people to file in before we get started. Excited for everyone that's here and anyone watching on YouTube or the replay. Please like, subscribe, pass on to your friends. If you like what you see, share it. Sharing is caring. And we're about to talk about caring because we're going to be talking about love today and a bunch of other things. First, I want to also say Happy Black History Month. Black History as always. And, I think it's important that we continue to just champion the voices of marginalized people. And today we're going to talk about love in all aspects. I've got two wonderful guides with me. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Before I introduce these two guides, I want to let everyone know about some cool takeaways that you'll have today. Last month, if you remember, I had a session with Ben, and we had a workbook. Our workbook was it was a tremendous session for me. I felt I went back and even scheduled with Ben to continue our conversation. So if you haven't seen that, go back to the archives. Definitely check that out. But I want to let everyone know that we are going to give everyone in this session access to our workbook. Thank you so much to our LifeGuides team. Ashley in the background. I'm going to call her Mrs. Oz since she mentioned that in the green room earlier. Please take this. You can fill it in as you go. It also has a QR code at the bottom, which can connect you directly with the LifeGuides app so that you can schedule a session. All right. Without any further ado or anything else to do, we're going to introduce our wonderful panelists. First, GenaSis. Okay, before I introduce you, can you please hold up your mug while I'm introducing you, because I think it'll go perfectly. GenaSis became a sex and relationship coach by popular demand. Around her, people feel permission to discover their fully authentic selves without shame. They feel radiantly alive, glowing, growing, and truly free. She has 35 years of sexual curiosity and personal experience living outside the lines of conformity. Trained by Jaya as a certified erotic blueprint coach and Satin Raja as an accelerated evolution coach, she loves helping people and couples reconnect, romance, deepen intimate connection, improve communication, and have hot, juicy lives filled with pleasure. It's fun. All right, I see the heart's flowing. We're gonna need a lot of that. This is Love Day, so we're gonna need a lot of heart flowing. GenaSis, thank you for being a part of our Connect today.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
All right, and also with me, my ace, Phillip B. He is a dynamic and compassionate professional with a diverse background spanning military intelligence, behavioral therapy, and leadership roles in retail management and volunteer initiatives. While currently excelling in his Master's of Arts program in clinical psychology with a focus on marriage and family therapy at Azura. I might have pronounced that incorrectly.
Here you
go. Okay. Appreciate the assist there. Pacific University, he's maintained a high GPA and demonstrated academic leadership. He also boasts a proven track record of developing and implementing strategic plans, conducting in-depth analysis, and leading teams with integrity and dedication. Being recognized for his exceptional ability to communicate effectively, he's worked on complex projects and advocates for diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as mental health support. He leverages extensive experience and ongoing education to contribute to impact the projects and initiatives that foster understanding, support, love, and community of well-being of people that he provides support to. He also promotes positive change, especially in but not limited to the field of psychology. So a wonderful welcome to you. And I'm happy you're here as well, because we're going to have a wonderful conversation. You have, this leadership experience that I was just talking about, but thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. Happy to be here. Happy to have this conversation.
All right. So now, I want to do something a little bit different. Typically, we start at the end with questions, but I want to cover a few questions. And one of the questions came up with, which is, why, for example, Scott, not here. Scott, we appreciate you. Scott had an emergency. and had to change his schedule. But again, we appreciate all of our guides, and we appreciate Phillip stepping in to support us today too. So that was one question. Another question that came up is, how do you remind yourself to be loving to yourself throughout the day? It's a good question. So I want to start there. That was posted by Tracy.
GenaSis.
Oh, thank you, Phillip.
Love expert.
Tracy, thank you so much for asking that question. That's definitely one of the most important things to consider is how and when are we making time just to give ourselves a little extra dose of love. So I like to think about it as, yes, it sounds like in the morning, you're really good at including love rituals. But just throughout the day, there can be little reminders, right? Maybe you look at the clock and it's 2:22, for example, and that is a good ping to be like, hey, I'm going to take a few minutes for myself right now. Could also be something as simple as you finish up a meeting and, before moving into the next meeting, just put on your favorite song and dance around a little bit. It's a good chance to move your body and to get back in touch with feeling really yummy and good. I love to do little things around that are just little reminders, like my mug, like my tea. It's just another way that I can say, I'm taking care of myself, because when I take care of myself, then I'm better equipped to take care of others and to really give back.
Oh boy, I gotta follow that.
Yeah.
No, I think that the little pings and reminders is something that me and my wife have been doing for a while now. 11/11 is our time, day and night. 11/11 was the day that we got married. And so whenever we see 11/11, she actually will stop and take a screenshot of it. And we just kind of talk about anything that we're feeling in that moment, whether it be positive or otherwise, but we always end it with, but I love you, right? And it just reinforces that. And it doesn't matter day or night. At night, I go to sleep knowing that I have said that to my wife. She has said that to me. We've shared in that moment together. And in the morning, it's almost like putting a battery in my back. I can go and do things knowing that, my wife has actually said this to me. It empowers me, it invigorates me, it makes me feel like I can take on anything, because I know more than the love of my puppies. I got 6 dogs. We could talk about that later. But
Okay, we can talk about that later. So,
but outside of my 6 dogs, most importantly, I received what I needed in terms of the words of affirmation, which we might get to the 5 love languages. That's mine, words of affirmation. I received it from my wife, and it feels good.
outstanding. When you're both talking about your level of experience and then what you're implementing you're talking about practices and, consistently making the choice to choose love. So let me ask a difficult question. Has there been a time in your life when it's been difficult to choose love?
Ooh.
Indeed, there was.
How did you overcome that difficult, the difficult time?
Yeah, I mean, it was a time in which I was burning the candle at both ends and a few places in the middle. I was, overworked and overgiving. And I realized that I started to feel like a bucket with holes in it. Like anytime someone would, love or compliment me, it just went right through. It didn't stick. And so I kind of always left me feeling empty. And it took a while for me to notice that really those holes were caused because I wasn't loving myself, because I didn't feel worthy of being loved. I didn't feel like I was lovable. And I had to do some deep practices to really get in touch with myself, to really, do the affirmations, do the mirror work, find, make a list of the things that are really good about me and really allow it to soak in. Because yeah, if when I wasn't loving myself, I wasn't really letting anyone else love me either. So I really did a deep dive, a deep look through meditation and journaling and self-pleasure to really reconnect with myself. And yeah, made
Right,
all the difference in the world.
it
That's
does.
really
And Phillip, before we go to you, I want you to, I want to add an extra layer to your question about how you continue to choose love. Um, what if there was maybe one or two things that really helped you, choose to kind of get back into that feeling of loving yourself and or loving someone else?
Oh boy. Oh, to answer the first question, absolutely. There was a time when I didn't love myself, and it showed because I was doing all of the things that I guess I would consider pleasurable, but
Mhm.
they weren't healthy for me. You know what I mean? Like, I was out and just out and about, out in the streets, as they say, and not just literally but also metaphorically. I didn't feel as though I had a sanctuary, a place that I could retreat to. I didn't have maybe like a social circle, and a circle of accountability either. And so I think that in getting all of those things, I really showed myself what love was. And I would say the main thing that taught me really to love myself was me getting into therapy. I've had a therapist for the past 2 years. Wonderful man. And there's actually a story behind that, but our relationship as therapist and client has grown so much, and he has taught me so much about what it means to be uh enough, what it means to be worthy, what it means to feel like I matter, I exist, and the people see me, people love me, people want to hear from me. um and that can be tough, especially when I left home to join the military, and then once I got out, uh going to college and being in the space where I'm typically the only black man in the room. It's hard to find and feel love when uh, there may not be a sense of empathy in the room. And so I had to learn how to love myself to be able to show up authentically in these situations where I might be the only one that understands my plight. You know what I mean? So it was it was therapy. It was 100% therapy. And therapy has been a godsend, not only to me as a person, but to my relationships, romantic and otherwise, my friendships, and even work relationships and endeavors. So,
Fantastic. You're doing the work, and that's one thing that's important is that we all learn to do the work. Sometimes we think it should come easy. People should know how to treat us, uh, but it you need to set boundaries or set expectations so that people know how to treat you. And this is a good segue into one of the second questions that we got. Please keep the questions coming. This is actually going very well with our agenda here. Dawn made a question, said a question about her spouse. She said her spouse can be negative to her ideas, and many times feels ashamed that she wants the opinion, or maybe thinking that the idea is a bad idea. So, of course, this is a blow to their self confidence. So, what's an approach to take to get across um, to others, in a relationship? What is your approach when you're dealing with maybe difficulties or someone dismissing your ideas in a loving relationship? Want to take a first swing at that? Looks like you, GenaSis, go for it.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So communication, we hear over and over and over that is key, right? And one of the things that we often aren't doing is really set aside intentional time to communicate. So often there's work and the kids and the pets and the parents and the, PTA and all the things. And we tend to communicate kind of in a rush or a last minute, and we're not fully resourced to be able to either send the message or receive the message. So I like to set aside intentional time, like twice a week, have a designated, like let's carve out this little block of time, come to it from a, well rested, well fed place, and double check, right? Is now a good time to still have a conversation, making sure that both people are feeling ready. And then using I statements is really important, right? Instead of going into the blaming and the shaming, really doing the I've been feeling lonely lately. Well, I know that your work is ramped up and keeping you very busy, and I'm feeling some sadness around this. I'm missing you. Because that's easier for the other person to hear. The other thing I like to do is reflective listening. So when I hear something from my partner, then I make sure I got it right. I say, I'm hearing that you were upset that I got home late the other night. And I'm hearing underneath that is that it's because you love me and you care about me that it made you upset. So really validating hearing them. Most of the time, most of us just want to be heard, seen, understood, and accepted as we are. So I like those two techniques. There are other exercises and tools that I use when I'm working with people that I'd be happy to dive into further with you if you want to schedule a session. But yeah, their communication with your partner is critical, and vulnerability is the key. When we come from a very authentic, vulnerable place, even starting it with, I'm really scared to share this with you,
It's huge.
and just take it right, dropping in, and being really present with one another. Eye contact, hands on hearts, whatever feels more comfortable to you, but really being present with each other.
Outstanding. Phillip, sorry you have to follow that, but we are going to go to you. Any thoughts on that?
I've been following this all day. It's kind of, kind of a lane, but
I love you, Phillip. I love you.
But no, I think that we underestimate the value of communication. But I also think that in a lot of environments, we never actually learned a couple of things: how to communicate, one, and then two, how to how do I put this? Put your pride to the side, I guess you could say, to drop the guard that we have on ourselves that won't let people climb over the walls to be vulnerable, to see us vulnerable, and to speak to the vulnerable us in an attempt to really connect, because that's where the true love comes from, and that's where true love can be built, when I'm not screaming to you from outside the walls, when we are actually sitting in the same room at the same table. We are looking to understand each other. We're looking to empathize with each other. We are looking to build with each other. And even agreeing to disagree at times is something that is valuable. It does not mean that the other person's opinion wasn't valid. It doesn't mean that the other person's opinion was wrong or anything like that. You just may have a different perspective, and instead of always nullifying somebody else's perspective, sometimes it's just best if you don't talk and just lean in. There might be times when somebody has something to say, or like my wife or like my mom or something like that, and I'll go 30-45 minutes just without speaking, because even in the moments where I could think of something to say,
Right.
It may not be appropriate in that moment, because they may need to, like GenaSis said, get all of this out, bring it to me, lay it at my feet, so that they understand that I am a safe place to come and talk about these things. They understand that I care enough to even allow them to speak. And I'm dealing with Black women and the marginalization that they feel. And so imagine what it's like having women who have been told over the course of their lives to be strong, to not show, you know, and we're and it's ironic because as men, especially Black men, we're taught the same things too. And
Yeah,
so
in some cases, yeah.
imagine what it's like when you got a strong person who has never been taught to be vulnerable, and they meet a strong person who has never been taught to be vulnerable.
A
What
lot of
is that
conflict.
like?
A lot of conflict.
So somebody has to be the first to let down their guard. And in my marriage, I make it me every time. I try my best to be like, you know what? Because leadership is service. And I think a lot of people believe that leadership is dictatorship, or leadership is bossing or delegation or things like that. True leadership is service. And if I'm going to be a leader in my community, if I'm going to be a leader in school, if I'm going to be a leader in my career, which means serving all of those places, then I had better be a leader to the person who has stuck by me through all of those stages of my life. And so I commit to unwavering leadership to my wife by serving my wife's every need and call to the best of my ability. And that means giving up my ego. That means coming to her first. That means using I statements. That means just allowing her the space to be open and honest and completely vulnerable, because then we can connect in that space and we build the type of relationship that we want to see out in the world. So
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the
Yes.
words I was looking for. I'm gonna let that breathe for just a moment. Yeah, showing up is important, and servant leadership. You're talking about servant leadership, like really being in service to others. One thing that I can add in my relationship is we use the 3Ds, and I may have mentioned this in the previous Connect event. Hey, do you want to discuss this? Do you want a distraction, or do you want distance? And that kind of sets the table for how we move forward. And if it is a discussion, what Phillip said is really important. The art of listening, and there's a book called The Lost Art of Listening by Michael Nichols, PhD. And it's a wonderful book that I go back and read all the time, because there's so many situations that we're in life where we don't listen. We're just thinking about what we're going to say next, or thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner, and not really being present. The best thing you can do to another human being is give them your attention. And that goes, without saying, but I will say it, that goes for your relationships. When you give them that attention, it means so much, so much. So where we can go from here, I want to ask a question to GenaSis that now that we've talked about giving, we've talked about giving love, being present for others. We talked about servant leadership. GenaSis, can you give us an example of a way that self-love can heal?
Yeah. Self-love is really incredibly at the root of where we come from. And, where I was at, I was very outwardly go, go, go and directed and that type of thing. The other thing was I was toxically independent, right? So I was doing it all on my own. I had this deep-seated belief that I couldn't count on anyone else. And so I wasn't opening up, I wasn't sharing. There was no one that I was sharing with back then. And, particularly when you're all on your own, if you don't have the self-love, you're just eating yourself up from the inside. And I got into some very destructive patterns with working an absurd number of hours, drinking, not eating nutritiously. I was working out, but it was more of an abuse of my body as opposed to a gift I was giving my body, right? And so when I dove into the deep work, there was a lot of shadow work. There was a lot of digging up the pain from the childhood that I had shoved down and repressed and built a castle with a moat and alligators on top of. You know, it really required some deep deconstruction, some tearing down those walls, some being willing to open up the drawbridge, to let others in, to let others see me cry, to let others see me not perfect. And so really with this self-healing, with this self-love, and realizing that I am actually human, not a robot, that I have these feelings, that I have these emotions, and that they are valid and deserve to be expressed, like whoosh, like so much came up to be processed, to be felt, and that freed me. I mean, I feel like I lost 100 pounds in that process. Like it was just so much angst and tightness and tension that I was feeling throughout my entire body. That was like, now I could breathe. I could take a full breath. I could move my shoulders. I could do yoga. You know, before that, it was just like I was a robot. So, you know, it became so deeply healing. And then from that, I have formed some beautiful friendships, met the man of my dreams, and now I'm happily married. It's incredible to like the life that I have now, the love that I have now. I didn't dare to dream of back then. I so didn't think it was possible, let alone not possible for me. I didn't even dare to dream it. And to now have so much love surrounding me in so many ways, in my husband, in my community, in my colleagues, I am truly, truly blessed. And so many of my health conditions have faded away. I have so much more flexibility. I have so much more movement in my body. I have so much more openness in my heart and spaciousness. I can feel the feelings as they come up instead of stacking them up forever.
Mhm.
So very, very healing on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a mental level. The depression has completely, completely gone away. I mean, don't get me wrong, 3 dark days in a row, and I'm like, okay, I need a light now.
Mhm.
But you know, the depression has gone away, the pain has gone away, and I'm just, yeah, living in such a love space that I'm truly, truly grateful.
Living your best life, as some would say. Um, for those who
Hashtag.
get that reference. Yeah, yeah. But, Phillip, we had a question come up while GenaSis was speaking, and this is kind of the flip side of what she's talking about with self-love. And I wanted to pose it to you first, just to see what you think. So the anonymous attendee mentioned, how to know when it's an appropriate point to let down your guard. GenaSis mentioned earlier about vulnerability being the key. So sometimes hearts will be broken if the other person doesn't empathize, with the first person, and the first person may feel exposed. So Phillip, what's a good time to be vulnerable, or is sometimes not being able to be vulnerable a sign that you need to move on?
Boy, let me first say that the castles and the moat and with the alligators and stuff like that, a lot of us live our lives like that, right? And not even talking about romantic love. We block ourselves from connection with the people we grew up with, because there could be trauma there, or there could have been, any number of things, from neglect to abuse, or anything in between. And so how you learn to survive was to build a wall, was to protect yourself. And so first, let me say that vulnerability is one of the scariest things that you can have, that you can deal with, that you can show other people, is the idea that you are here, you are open. And the problem with that is a lot of people take advantage of that. and a lot of people who show their vulnerability, people just wanted to see it so that they could do whatever they wanted to with it, and could cause deeper trauma. But I will say, um, you have to not think of everybody the way you think of the last person who hurt you. Because then if you start boxing everybody in to that group, then you'll never open up to anybody again. And it is necessary for you to feel. One of the things that I thought of when GenaSis was talking is, we are each uniquely created for the path that we are to walk. And that kind of self-confidence and understanding what that is will lend itself to you being able to connect with certain people at certain times. Now, it doesn't mean everybody, and it doesn't mean that the people that you connect with for a season are supposed to be there with you for a lifetime. There are times when it is perfectly okay for you to cut people off, to stop whatever it is, being friends and things like that. But you'll never fully live if you live closed. You have to live open, and it is necessary for you to understand that the ease in which you can be vulnerable with with other people, with the connection of people and things like that, is directly tied to the self-confidence that you feel in yourself. So the higher the higher self-confidence that you have, the more self-aware that you are, and the more apt and the more open you are to learning about others. It'll allow you to more easily connect, more easily be vulnerable, and you will find that you can tell the people who are going to come and to start trying to take advantage of you. When you let down a wall, you can see it. You'll be able to see it a mile away. But if you never experience it in the first place, then you won't know what it looks like when it comes again. Because there are people who are going to try to tap into the very thing to try and manipulate you and things like that. And so it is important for you to experience along with education, are awesome teachers in and of themselves. But together they form the very basis for the type of growth that is necessary for us to reach the purpose that we're trying to reach. So don't be afraid of being open and being vulnerable, because the right people are going to respect that. They're going to love that. They are going to nurture that. And they are going to let down their walls themselves. And somebody you might have thought would never be vulnerable with you could be the very person that you end up on a journey with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk, everyone. You know, because we're talking about that. When you're talking about being vulnerable, you are exactly that. It's this weird dynamic where you're being strong when you're being vulnerable, but you're also opening yourself up to a potential attack. And one way, that I've learned how to handle that vulnerability, I was, recommended a book by our founder, Mark Donahue, called The Untethered Soul. I talk about it all the time because it's a great book that you can go back to, that helps you to understand what those thorns are, what vulnerability that you're maybe running from, what behavior you're doing that's not allowing you to love yourself and or love others. And just a quick plug, we are going to be doing book sessions here at our Connect event. So just a little bit of a heads up on that. I'm now thinking about vulnerability. I'm thinking about, self-love. GenaSis, maybe this is a question for you, but some people, maybe they're not in a relationship. They're on their own, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. How can someone even learn to be vulnerable with themselves? To to really ask themselves like difficult questions.
Thank you. Yeah, that is a beautiful question. And it was really, a space of being unpartnered where I did the bulk of this healing work. It was a discovery, a realization that made me end the prior relationship and really dive in deep to being my own best lover, my own best friend, my own best person. And some of the things that you can do to be really vulnerable with yourself involve a mirror. And you can start easy, start fully dressed, start in the mirror, start and just admire something about yourself, and it's a compliment. You like look at your eyes and you say, I love my eyes, and I love my eyes because they're beautifully green and they help me see the world, and they offer me this gift and I really appreciate them and they're so lovely. And just spend a few minutes really admiring each body part, and then get a little more vulnerable, take off a layer physically, literally and physically, and then admire another part. There's so much of the media that is so focused on telling us how we're wrong and we're bad and we're broken and we need to be fixed. And the truth is that we are perfect just the way we are. So, diving into your stomach. I love my stomach. I love that it's, beautifully helped me carry my, 3 babies. I appreciate that it, holds me together in the center. I love how soft it is. I love how it offers, sweet, caress, like whatever you can find to really, really vulnerably view yourself, see yourself, and honor and appreciate it. Are really, yeah, that's some deep work. And I really am holding the space for you on that one.
Let me add this. Let me add this because I think that is wonderful. And one thing that people need to know, do that work in the mirror and say it even when you don't believe it.
Yep.
Even when you do not believe it, say it anyway. Because what's going to happen is, even if you don't believe it in the beginning, eventually you're going to start to inception yourself with the idea that you do. There's no way you're saying this as many times as you're saying this to yourself without you actually starting to believe it. It's just like that story from your uncle. You go over there, he tell that same story about how he was, varsity team captain in the, in the 60s, and he did
6 touchdowns.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, was he really? But he done told it so many times. Every time you see him, that you just like, okay, okay, I believe it. You have to do the same thing with yourself. Tell yourself, I love this. And it might be in the very beginning, you might be like, but I don't love that. And you'll walk away from it. And then you'll do it again. And then you might walk away from it. And then you'll do it again. And maybe this time, instead of walking away, you linger a little bit. Because you like, I guess I kind of do. And then you'll walk away. And then you'll come back the next day. You see how it just starts to build on itself. And that is what you're looking for. You don't necessarily have to believe the things that you are telling yourself in the beginning, but do not neglect saying these things to yourself, because before anybody else takes the power of saying those words to you from you, you should give that power to yourself first. Do not allow people to usurp the power of believing that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. That power is for you. So that's what I had to say about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And you are so absolutely right. I also, as a starting point, I'll offer you a few extra little cheat codes in here. Put on some yummy music. Put on some music that feels really soft and sexy. Put on an outfit as a starting point that makes you feel really good about yourself. Turn the lights down a little bit low, but light some candles. We all look better at candlelight. So love yourself up. Have a romantic evening with yourself and your mirror, and just love all over yourself. Giving that verbal appreciation, giving that verbal acknowledgement. Because what we appreciate appreciates, right? When we appreciate something, it grows. And same with gratitude, right? The more gratitude we acknowledge and we feel, the more things we have to be grateful for.
Absolutely. I hate to be the love fest, stir, even though we're having this wonderful love fest, but I want to pose a question because we are dealing with challenging times in the world, and people are, just all across the world, from the conflict in the Middle East with in Gaza to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and even other countries around the world. Sometimes some people may feel like it's a bit out of touch or fluffy to be thinking about self-love with so much stress and turmoil going on in the world around us. So yeah, how do we balance that? How do we balance that need for self-love, that need for self-discovery, while also noticing that things aren't great in the world sometimes?
Yeah, thank you. Deep down, we all want to be loved. Wherever we are in the world, whatever is going on, we all want to be loved and feel lovable. And I had a teacher that I was working with, and that teacher shared with me that their teacher said, there is one answer to every question and every problem. And that answer is love. Everything is made better when we apply more love to it. So whether we're navigating something with ourselves or with our partners, with our families or our communities or the world at large, every single piece is made better when we apply more love to it. Because at our core, that's what we are. We are love, and we're meant to be love. And so everything that's going on in the world are places where there's an absence of love or a lack of love, a deficiency of love. So the more love we can infuse into it, and genuinely believing in ourselves and loving others every day, we're going to heal those conflicts. We're going to face the pain, and we're going to love it up. And that's going to have a ripple effect. I sometimes jokingly talk about, like, if I had a presidential campaign, I would be, my platform would be world peace through maximum love and pleasure, because that's what we all need. So everyone that we come in contact with, especially if they're angry, especially if they're upset, especially if they're in a hurtful way, it's just a place where they're feeling unloved, unlovable. And if we can meet them, see them, and give them more love, we can melt that down and come together.
Well, it needs love. Earlier, you mentioned, turn your lights down low, which made me think of Bob Marley, and we know his message was love. And it's just another example of how love can heal. What about you, Philip? Any thoughts on that? On how we can balance that?
I think we can start by recognizing the differences in people without automatically believing that we have a right to hate or dislike or discredit or harm people based on their differences. We are all different. None of us are the same, and yet we are all the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all exist on this planet trying to do the best that we can do with whatever we were given. That doesn't make us, that doesn't, it doesn't automatically create a hierarchy. And with that hierarchy comes oppression and division and a lot of times even harm. We're not all as different as we believe. But at the same time, the differences that we do have, the differences that we can see and the differences that we can't, the differences that we understand and the differences that we do not, they all deserve to exist. They all deserve to be here. And once we allow people to, this is why a lot of people have trouble showing up as their authentic selves, because they know that they're different. And they know that because they're different, they're going to be judged, ridiculed, lambasted, you know, sometimes even straight up ostracized based on something that they can't help, or something that they choose, or something that feels good to them. And so why not, instead of automatically believing that because we're different, I have to look at you differently, why can't I look at your differences and be like, I celebrate that. I love that for you. I think that that's wonderful. While also understanding that it's not me. I don't have to be like you, and you don't have to be like me. But that doesn't mean that I can't love you for who you are, what you do, and how you show up in the world. Because I believe that if there was enough love for everybody to show up authentically, the world would be a better place, because there would be no reason to hide who we are. There would be no reason to manipulate people to get what we want. There would be no reason to harm people based off of what we believe them to be or what we don't believe them to be. So I don't, as a Black person, it is a mission of mine to show up in every space that I'm in authentically. I use Black colloquialisms. I use AAVE. You didn't heard me say, you know what I mean, and stuff like that all the time. But that's who I am, and that's who I'm going to be. It does not mean that because I speak differently than you, I'm less intelligent than you. It does not mean that I can't show up in spaces the same way you do. It does not mean that I can't take charge of things, take hold of things, to lead things, or even to be a team player, to jump on the team and help the team move forward. All of those things are in my wheelhouse, even though to society, because I'm wearing chains and, you know, I wear Timbs and, you know, I got fitteds and stuff like that. I may look like the stereotypical Black man. Why not try and celebrate me for my differences? Why not try and get to know who I am, what I'm about, and most importantly, what I'm capable of? Because oftentimes my capability won't do anything but push whatever it is we're trying to do forward. So allow me to be me so that I can help us. And as we allow each of us, Dr. Dave, GenaSis, Marie, Lori, Mark, as we allow all of us to be who we are and show up as authentically as we deserve to show up, we're not going to do anything but make the spaces that we're in better.
And so is this where we end? I mean, we can. We have a couple more questions. Thank you for sharing that. I think, you know, the chat's on fire. The, you know, engagement with the reactions is on fire. I know we're coming down to the end. I don't want it to end. I still have so much more to learn from these two. And for the uninitiated, the people that Phillip was mentioning are our teammates here at LifeGuides, as well as some of the guides who are available on our platform. So if you're liking what you're hearing, connect with one of our guides. We are on a mission. We're on a, no assist for, this is a basketball reference. No assist. We're out here on a mission.
Right.
And that mission is to improve human well-being. And before we go, I'll have a couple of announcements, and I'll give each of you a moment to share your final words. But I do want to get to one question that we have. So an anonymous attendee asked, and this may be better for you, GenaSis. They say, I cannot stand internet dating, but I am very much an introvert, and I am a creative and also very spiritual. At times, I know it's healthy to heal and enjoy my solitude. But what do I do when I need that love and assurance and have no one physically to turn to?
Thank you. Really feeling you on that one. I agree. Internet dating is not for everyone. In fact, my husband was on 30 different dating sites for years, and I walked into his living room. So, it's not necessarily the most effective ROI, return on your investment. So in terms of, that physical need, there are a couple of things that you can do with yourself. Fabrics are a really great way, right? Something that's like a soft, smooth sweater, fuzzy, yummy blanket. My cats got me through the pandemic. They were my vibrating, heated gravity blankets. They would lay on top of me, and I'd pet them, right? You can get some physical touch in that way. I love also doing self-touch with things like feathers, right? Really just giving your body some yummy sensations on your own. Giving yourself a massage. That might be slowing down after a shower, putting on some music, and like putting on lotion really nice and slowly. We as humans need touch. We will wither and die without it. And then there are also cuddle parties, which are very safe spaces in which people wear jammies, and there are very clear lines of, rules. And depending on where you live, you could go to a cuddle party and just snuggle up some strangers and get some good physical touch in that way as well. So if you want to book a call with me, I'd be happy to help you navigate some of that as well. But I'm a big fan of lots of form of self. Using rose petals can be a really delicious feeling as well, for giving yourself some physical touch.
All right, I'm learning so much. First off, cuddle parties might be my new favorite party. Of course, with permission. My wife has to also agree. Again, we talk about communication. You got to make sure you communicate. And the poly people, I know, talking about the polyamorous people who are have multiple partners. They talk about the importance of communication in their relationship. So before we go, I'm going to shoot out some quick announcements. Thank this wonderful crew. Thank our people in the chat. This chat has been on absolute fire. The engagement has just been up with the emojis. I feel the love, to say the least. But a quick housekeeping. Next week, we are about to drop our March Connect event. And as I mentioned before, we are going to feature books, and we have a special surprise that we're going to start with our Connect events. This is going to be a new opportunity for people within the event to directly connect on a short-term basis with each other. It's completely controlled, but we love what this is going to do. So please share the link for next month when it comes out. Again, like and subscribe if you're liking what you're seeing here. If you would appreciate it, the content that we shared and the lives and the vulnerability we shared, share it with someone. Ask someone to take a listen, or if you know someone that needs it, please provide it to them. Again, sharing is caring. And we will be asking you to please complete our post-event survey. It really helps us improve this event so that we can continue to reflect what you want and reflect what you need here with our Connect events. We've also sent out the reflection worksheet. If you haven't downloaded that, please take a moment and download that. But I want to give this time to our wonderful two panelists to Sail Us Away. And I use that term specifically because that's an Anya song, right? Sail Away. Um, that's my self-love song. I put that on, run a bath and things are great. So let's start with you, Phillip, your last words for today before we move to close.
All right. Firstly, I met my wife through online dating, and it's been an absolutely wonderful experience. Maybe another time, I could tell you guys about that. What I will say is, practice love everywhere and anywhere you can. I think the most important version of practice that we all need is the self version. Love yourself. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you are nurturing yourself, that you are respecting yourself. Everything that you can do for yourself, do it, because then when you get out into the world, you know what it feels like, you know what to look for, and you know how to receive it, because I think that that's something that's very important too. Giving love is one thing. We always talk about giving love, but I really think that we also need to learn how to receive it as well. Allow people to love on you a little bit, allow people to big you up, to give, again, there go the words of affirmation, but to give you compliments. A lot of us can't even receive compliments from other people. I know that I've worked on that myself. Just try the work, and eventually you'll fall into doing the work, and then it will be easy for you to give the work, is what I'll leave y'all with.
Fantastic. GenaSis, we'll end with you.
I don't think I can follow that.
Tables are turned.
That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Yes, just sending such big love to all of you. So grateful that you're here. And yeah, I'm reminded of Care Bears, right? When the Care Bears would stand and they would blast out love, just walk through the world, blasting out love everywhere you go. And everyone else is blasting out the love. Receive it in. Take it in. Let it soak in, nourish you. And yeah, just be the love that you want to see in the world. If we're all doing that, what an amazing, incredible world it's going to be.
And with that, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this Connect event. We'll see you next month.